On this day in history,
See if anything was
1968, the Apollo 7 launched the first manned Apollo mission. The crew conducted an 11-day orbit of Earth, during which the first live television broadcasts were transmitted from orbit. The entire mission roughly cost $1.2 billion, which is ironic because that's about what it costs to have satellite TV today. This week, we will be taking deep dives into genres, tropes, and cliches. So welcome to the corner booth. We're really happy that you're here. We want to also talk about what to avoid while you're writing these facets of competition. So I want to welcome our two panelists, Miss Rita Kovac and Camille Funk. And hopefully we'll be getting Lindsay Lippincott in here soon. We got room for her in the party. Let's see here. At the top of every broadcast, we would like to play a game just to get everybody's brain juices going. And today we're going to be playing a round of Mad Libs. So what I've got is a Mad Lib that has a surprising amount of blanks that have body parts. So I'm hoping that the guests really know their anatomy. So I'm just going to go back and forth between the two of you. I need a verb that ends in S, Rita.
Runs.
Runs. Okay, Camille, I need a body part.
Neck.
Neck. All right, Rita, another body part.
Elbow.
Okay, Camille, verb ending in S.
Drips.
Drips. It's an interesting one. Rita, body part.
Pancreas.
Okay, Camille, another body part.
Pinky toe.
Pinky toe. All right, Rita, a verb that ends in S.
Shines.
Okay. Camille, I need an adjective.
Hairy.
Hairy. Rita, another adjective.
Dirty.
Dirty. And Camille, one more adjective.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. All right, Rita, body part.
Earlobe.
Camille, another body part.
Tonsils.
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 Okay. Rita, another body part.
Belly button.
Camille, another body part.
Butt.
Butt. Okay, Rita, verb that ends in S.
Flies.
Camille, a noun.
A trapeze artist.
Trapeze. Okay. Okay, Rita, a body part.
Knee.
Knee.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Camille, a noun.
Popsicle.
Popsicle. And we got Lindsay Lippincott in the house.
Hi.
Can you hear us? Hi.
Yeah.
We're doing this this really anatomical Mad Libs. So we'll just throw you in the bunch. Give me a body part.
Hand.
Hand. All right, Rita, another body part.
We're running out. Nose.
Oh, you can never run out of body parts.
This is a family show, Nat.
I'm saying.
Nose. Did you get it?
Nose.
Yes.
Okay, Camille, another body part.
Calf.
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 All right, Lindsay, an adverb.
You're on mute.
Say again.
I was just saying that you're going to pick the one thing that I'm like worst at remembering. Is gently an adverb?
They usually end in ly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, then gently.
All right. Read an adjective.
Smelly.
Smelly. All right. Camille, a noun.
McDonald's.
Donald's. Okay.
I feel like I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel in my head.
All right. Lindsay, an adjective.
Let's see here. What's a good adjective? Have we already been like using? Are we like not supposed to be reusing stuff?
No, you can use whatever you want.
Let's see here. Small.
Rita and Camille, they've been all over the place. What's that?
Small.
Smell? Or smelly?
Yeah, sure. Either one.
All right, Rita, another adjective.
Pink.
Pink. And the last blank, Miss Camille, a verb ending in ing, otherwise known as a gerund.
Panting.
Pantsing.
No, panting.
Oh, okay. Panting.
I like pantsing too.
Either
Either
good.
one.
Either good. All right, let's see. This Frankenstein of a monster. All right, I gotta let you know that this did come from a book of Mad Libs called 50 Shades of Mad Libs. So that's all the body parts. It's gonna read really well. I'm guessing. Okay, he runs his neck so He runs his neck to his elbow. Yes, right there. He drips his pancreas along his pinky toe, eases back the eases back, then shines into me again. So hairy, so dirty, so beautiful. His earlobe pressing down on me, his tonsils and his belly button on either side of my butt. Oh, oh, Anna. He flies as he lets go. My name, a trapeze artist, on his knee. He finds his popsicle, his hand, rests on my nose, his calf wrapped around me. I just want to enjoy the gently smelly afterglow of making McDonald's with Christian, because that's what we've done. Smelly, pink, panting. All right, great job, guys.
Nice work.
I'm so proud of you. All right. So we're going to get into the meat of the discussion, or as we call the entree. We're going to start with something that is just an open-ended question for all the panelists. What is so important about genre? Why can't we just throw it up as fiction or nonfiction? And once we choose a side, why is it so imperative to find the right subsection? I'm going to start with Rita and just go around the horn.
So, in terms of writing, when you're writing a book, you need to be aware of what genre you're writing in for a lot of reasons, and I'm sure we're going to be mentioning most of them. But one of them is think about where your book is going to be shelved in a bookstore. So once it's published, who is it going to be surrounded by? What other books are going to be next to it? And that will help you kind of like guide the story if you want it to be in that genre. But if you realize, well, what I'm currently writing right now, even though I may be calling it one genre, but if I think about what's it's going to be next to, it's totally different, then maybe it's really not that genre. Maybe it should be somewhere else. So then you can think about how to reframe the story you're trying to tell in that way.
Nice. I like it. What about you, Camille?
Well, I agree with what Rita said. I think it's a great analogy to kind of imagine where your book would be in a bookstore, in a library. I think it all knowing what genre you're in also helps with marketing your book. You're able to attract your audience. You can already kind of know some of your audience's expectations in the genre that you're writing in. And it also, once you get even down to a subgenre, you can find even more specific audience, and your book can really spread through that fandom, through word of mouth. So knowing where your book belongs in your genre is really important to developing your characters and shaping them and shaping your world.
Right. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that people, they'll say, "Oh, I'm reading this book, but I just started reading this other one. Have you heard about it?" And because it's a lot like the one that everybody else has read, something like that. What about you, Lindsay?
For me, I'm gonna go in a route that's kind of like what's allowed in your story. So like by saying that, you're not gonna write like a nonfiction story and include like flying cars and robot people and stuff like that. So kind of like knowing what you're able to include in your story to like make sure that it all works together.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because like some genres have like hard and fast rules. Like, yeah, absolutely, nonfiction. It has to be reality, right? But like romance is a really good example where you have to have a happily ever after, or at least a happily for now ending. And if you don't, then that's really not romance. I mean, you may have romance in 90% of the first part of the book, but if it doesn't end happily, then it's either a chick lit or it's women's fiction, but it's not romance, because romance readers expect that happy ending. So you can't fool them. And this goes back to what Camille said about marketing. It's if you market it as romance and then you kind of do a bait and switch and like the love interest dies at the end, then your readers are going to be really disappointed. And it could be like the best book ever, but because the end is not what they were expecting for that genre, they're going to hate it.
Where would you separate romance and chick lit? That's always been my question.
Well, I don't think chick lit has to necessarily cover romance, like a romantic story. It can be like work related or a identity mix up, or, you know, God, a million different things.
Okay.
They're just kind of topics and stuff that are like geared more towards women in general. Like they just have topics that would probably interest women more than they would interest men.
And I always
and then they're just
as like kind of college and just starting working age type stories. You're not really going to get like a married mom as much chick lit.
And there just happens to be romance in a.
Sometimes, yeah. A lot of them.
Right.
I would say, I mean, like, I would say that romance kind of sneaks itself into most genres. And I don't know, it could just be like the type of person that writes it. But I mean, like, a lot of my fantasy and like it's all super dark and stuff, but then like it has like that romance aspect into it too.
Do you think it's just because you want a moment of levity?
Probably.
Yeah, it's not so heavy. That makes sense. All right. Moving on. This question is for Rita. What is a trope?
So tropes are recurring literary devices. They could be motifs or even cliches. I know we're going to talk about those later, but tropes aren't inherently bad, even though they're everywhere. You need to, as a writer, make them your own and frame them in a unique way. But tropes are just like very general. So typical ones can be like the not like other girls trope or the chosen one. There's also body switching, aliens land on Earth, deadly virus escapes a lab, mistaken identities. So, you know, those are like universal, and the way you tell the story is how you make it special. Romance has some really great ones like friends to lovers, enemies to lovers, reunited high school sweethearts. You know, like these are all like the tropes you see around Christmas time with like all the Hallmark movies and everything on Netflix these days, the love triangles, pretend relationships, the rich guy and the common girl, where the rich guy is often a prince or a billionaire. There's forced proximity. There's only one bed. That's like a huge trope, right? So these aren't necessarily like the entire plot of the book either. It's like these are like little snippets of what can make up your story. Like some of my personal favorite tropes are like the time loop, like in Groundhog Day or Happy Death Day, Edge of Tomorrow, or Before I Fall.
Had an episode of that.
What's that?
Supernatural had an episode of that where just kept dying. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I really like it because, you know, if it's told well, then your character like grows from every iteration of the time loop as they're getting like hopefully closer and closer to the end of it. A recent one was Palm Springs on, I think it was Netflix, with Andy Samberg. Yeah, so it's again like all those I just listed like 5 movies in a book. Like they're all the time loop tropes, but you know, they all did it differently. So you know that's kind of a good way to show that, you know, it's the uniqueness that counts. So it's absolutely definitely not a bad thing to have a trope.
Sure, absolutely. And
although you can hate some certain tropes.
Well, I think that some people do, and they avoid them when they're writing them. When they were doing Avengers Endgame, they did a completely different take on the whole essence of time travel. And I think it just made it so that you weren't watching the same movie that you've seen a million times. Like, oh, let's just go back and do this and suffer no consequences kind of deal. That there were actual stakes, and I really like that about it. Otherwise, like in the comic books, they always have the the people who make it through always, and the people that there's just cannon fodder. Like there's no reason for them whatsoever. And I always like it when there's that one person that kind of sneaks in and kind of makes it through the plot. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Anybody else got anything to say on tropes? All right.
Well, can I just add that tvtropes.org is a website that has like every single examples of every single trope you can think of, and I love that site because sometimes, especially kind of going back to the genres too, like when you're writing and when you have your book ready and if you want to query it, you want to have some like comps, the comparables. And sometimes as a writer, it's like the hardest thing is to come up with like, okay, well, what is my book like? But if you can like identify some of the maybe like the main tropes or how you, kind of spin those, then you can find like, okay, well, what other book or movie or something in pop culture has used that? And that's kind of a way how I've, backed into some of my comps in the past. So, that's a good site to kind of look through.
Yeah, navigate that.
Mm-hmm.
See exactly what you're dealing with. We do have somebody from England. His name is Reese. He says hi from England. So hello, Reese. And we always have our wonderful Carl O'Connor. He said, right next door to you, I'm Irish. Somebody kiss me. So, hey, Carl, how's it going, man? And we're really happy to have you, Reese. Lindsay, what is a cliche?
So a cliche in general is just something that's kind of like overused a lot. So like Rita had mentioned, tropes can be cliches. I was also going to say, like some cliches are tropes. So I mean, it's kind of ones that get overused. So I mean, like, The Chosen One is not necessarily a cliche just because, I mean, it can be if depending on how you do it. I'm going to start on some like phrases. So like some phrases that are typically tropes that or not tropes, but cliches that you'll see is in the nick of time, or only time will tell, a matter of time, the speed of light, lasted an eternity. These are things that just like, they're just phrases that are overused that are put in there to mean something else. So like lasting eternity, you're just saying that, I mean, it's something that lasted a really long time. I think one kind of trope that I've seen that's a cliche, and I've used it countless times, and you'll see it all over Wattpad, especially in that werewolf genre, is the alpha male, the super rugged, bossy, kind of toxic type of character. And I mean, the thing is that some of these, while they're overused and they kind of make you roll your eyes, some of them, if they're used, because of that, I would say that not necessarily all cliches people perceive them. So I mean, some people will be like, in the nick of time, oh, why'd you use that phrasing? That's just dumb. But I mean, like when you get into the tropes, sometimes people just really love.
You're on mute, Lindsay.
Oh yeah, I was done talking there, so I kind of muted myself at the end.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure. You're good. You're good. All right. How do we avoid the commonplace tropes and cliches while writing? What if we use one and don't actually know it is one? Start with Rita.
Well, I don't know how you can avoid using something when you don't know it's like a trope or a cliche. I mean, I guess one way to avoid that would just be like read a lot and like, watch a lot of movies just so you know what's out there and be familiar with kind of how other creatives use those ideas. But in terms of like avoiding cliches, really is just, like make it, I've said this before, like make it unique. I guess one way is to like, gender flip a story. So like you might have like the the virgin nerd and the experienced hunk, but if you gender flip it where the guy is inexperienced and the girl is like the boss, that's where you're like subverting that trope and not presenting it in a cliched way. So I think that's one way to do it.
I'm glad that you use that word subverting. That's probably one of the most interesting things that an author can do is just subvert an expectation and make it so that you think you know what you're onto, and then boom, it's on. You're just sideways. I enjoy that flip right there. That's why it's really nice. Camille, what do you think?
Again, I just have to really agree with Rita. When you brought up the Hallmark movies before, that was the first thing I thought of when I found out what we were talking about tonight. Those Hallmark movies every Christmas are hugely popular, and for a reason. People know what they're getting when they go into them. Sometimes people like to read a book that is comfortable, that is just really just easy reading, the epitome of it. And so, sometimes these tropes and cliches work out in people's benefit. But like Rita mentioned, the best thing you can do is take one of these and inject your own creativity into them and switch them into a way that people aren't really expecting. That's really how you can take something that, a common thread that most stories have, like romance or something, and kind of, switch it up a little bit.
What about you, Lindsay?
So as for kind of like when Rita was talking about the how to avoid, how would you avoid using something, or if you did use it, like how would you handle type of thing? I would say like if it's something that you don't necessarily know is a cliche or something like that, and you either have, if you post it on Wattpad, then you have people that are reading and commenting. So if someone says something and you see a whole lot of comments that are saying, oh, wow, this is overused, blah, 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 that kind of thing, and you see that repeatedly, then that kind of alerts you to like, hey, how can I rework this part so maybe it's not so common? Or if you're sending it off for publishing, then you have editors and stuff where they're going to catch it and they're going to be like, you should probably not go this route here. Let's try and figure out how to do something else. But I would say don't necessarily discredit something just because it's a commonly used trope or it's a cliche. I would say, like, I have 2 profiles on Wattpad. I had started writing my more serious thought out stuff. And then I was like, you know what, just for fun, I'm going to look at what some of the most popular stories are on Wattpad. And a lot of those were werewolf books. And I was like, okay, well, what do all of these have in common? And that you frequently saw the big alpha male and all that kind of stuff. And, oh, she was rejected, or, oh, they don't get along to begin with. And like that kind of thing. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to put one of these together. And it took off. So obviously, just because it's a cliche or a trope doesn't mean that people don't want to see it. Kind of like those Hallmark movies where they know what they're going to get and they obviously love it and they eat it up and they just want more of it. I guess it's something where if you know that it's popular, know your audience, know where you're going to put it. Those stories, I'm pretty much only going to keep on Wattpad. So, I don't care that I'm following those cliches and that I'm just utilizing that. Now, if it was something that I was going to try and be more serious with, I would probably be like, okay, let's take a step back, figure out how I can maybe have something similar, but work it into a way that's original.
Gotcha. All right. Camille, you've posted your latest chapter, but rather than a claim, it sets off a powder keg due to politics, race, or religion. How do you handle negative comments?
Well, I think if they're writing a negative comment to me about what I've written, obviously I'm going to take a second look at what I've written. In no way, shape, or form do I want anything I've written to make any of my readers feel bad. So I would absolutely, if it caught attention of something I wrote made someone feel that way, and that caused the issue in the comments, then I would do a double check of what I've written. if something that I've written created my readers to kind of react to each other and have political discussions or talk about, a hot button issue, that's usually what we kind of hope for as writers, that we spark some sort of discussion. As I know you guys know, that happened to me recently. It sparked something I wrote, sparked discussion in my comments. And that's fine but when it gets to a point where it is moving away from what you, the discussion is moving away from what you wrote and it gets into like personal attacks, that's when I think, especially on Wattpad, we as the authors need to kind of step in and make sure that our readers feel safe and don't feel like they're getting a negative experience on Wattpad. I mean, I don't want anyone to have a negative experience associated with reading my book personally.
Right.
So, if it gets to that point, you have to report them, talk to Wattpad, get the big people involved.
Has there ever been an experience where you've had to kind of settle it for somebody, like within your comments?
I don't think most recently with this issue, 2 people, or actually ended up being 3 people, got into it and it became political, and then it became name calling and some derogatory names were used, and also some things were said to one of my readers that I would never say to another human being. So in that case, I felt like I absolutely had to step in. And for me, that was just addressing on the comment section that I was aware of what was happening in this comment section and that I reported it. And then for me personally, it was important to reach out to 2 of the people involved in the discussion who I felt were getting a lot of heat thrown at them and who were taking a brunt of things. So I personally reached out to them in DM and made sure that they knew that I wasn't okay with what was being said in my comment section. But I didn't feel like it would be beneficial for me at all to reach out to the reader who was spewing some of this stuff. I felt like that was better left in Wattpad's hands than mine.
Sure. Absolutely. Know the boundary. All right, this is an open-ended question for everyone. How do you deal with overly friendly or awkward comments? Lindsay, I'm going to start with you.
So I'm normally awkward right back, but then again, I'm like always awkward. So I'll like be like, ha ha ha, thanks. And I'm like, or ha ha, okay. If it's something where like I don't think that I could really stand, I just go and I delete the comment just to get rid of it or something like that. If it's a person that's like messaging me directly, then something that I'm just like, all right, I'm done with this conversation now. Bye.
What about you, Rita?
Those types of comments I tend to usually just ignore and not even deal with them. And on Wattpad, if it's really like inappropriate or awkward, it's either like a really young kid or if it's like it's some weird dude like trying to troll for women. So either category I think is just best to ignore. There are a lot of lovely comments that are just that you can just answer thanks to, or oh that's awesome or whatever. I mean, so most comments are just oh this is awesome, or this is I like this chapter, or cool, or things that you can't even really answer appropriately. But in cases where a reader like really writes something constructive or they really put some effort into it, I'm pretty sure we all answer and then thank them, and that's just the best way to engage in a conversation. Not hi lovely, how are you today? No, ignore.
Right. How about you, Kemi?
Yeah, I don't really get that many awkward ones. I have gotten a lot of, well, I guess they're a little awkward, requests to read, as I'm sure you guys do constantly. Like, will you read my book? Will you read my chapter? And honestly, most of the time I just try to answer professionally and politely about it. But there are those rare times where someone will catch me and I'll be in a really good mood, or I'll be really bored, or it'll be someone who I've noticed, like Rita said, who has left constructive criticism on my chapters. And I'll absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I'll read your first chapter and leave some feedback. So I would never want to discourage anyone from asking for people to read their book, because it certainly happens. I know all of you have read people that you don't know's books just randomly from comments, your readers. So it's absolutely worth asking. But yeah, for the most part, if it's a little awkward, I just try to stay really polite and kind of, just like you would at a party, just kind of take a step back with your drink and edge away a little bit.
So guys, this is funny, but you might want to get a kick out of it. So right now I have 3 Wattpad users who all claim to be Prince Andrew of York following me. I don't know what's going on, but that seems like the it thing right now. And all of them followed me like in the last 2 weeks. Something is weird is really going on.
I have no princes following me.
I can give you one of mine.
I would like to piggyback off of what Camille was saying there. And like with the asking people to read your stuff, because like she said, we all kind of get that. But one thing that I really found from going and navigating Wattpad in the beginning is, if you really want to have more people read your stuff, you need to read more people's stuff. You need to read and leave those comments and, oh, I'm really enjoying this, and like show that you're engaging with their story as you're reading, because they're more likely to be like, let me check out this person's profile, because I've done that multiple times where I'm just like, oh, they leave a lot of really nice comments. I'm gonna go check out, and like, oh, they got some stuff there, and like I'll just kind of like skim through the blurbs and stuff like that and see if it's something that I'm interested in reading and would want to do. That was kind of how I got involved with Vic and Deb and Darley and all of those. We just kind of I think we all joined around the same time, and we just kind of started reading each other's works because our genres are kind of similar. And so, I mean, that's how you build readers and build those relationships and stuff like that.
Well, it's also really healthy to do what you did and just find a writing group that is that you can circulate work through. Like if you just put up a chapter and you're about to put up a chapter and you're not sure if it's working, and you can send it around the horn and just see, hey, just whatever you can, check this out, see if it works. If it doesn't, let me know what you didn't like about it, and so on and so forth. So I think that's really cool that you guys have like developed that kind of a community within Wattpad. So that's
Right.
it's not something that is impossible to do. It might take a little bit of time to find your people, but it's from all around the world. You're going to find people somewhere.
Yeah, and I mean, what's really cool is that like we don't all talk all the time anymore. Like we used to talk a whole lot, but I mean, lives get busy and all that kind of stuff. But still, if there's like you check in every once, hey, how are things going? Or hey, I wanted to bounce this idea off of you if you have time. Like this is what I'm thinking about doing, but I'm not sure if that's right. And just to be able to do that, even if you don't talk daily or weekly anymore.
Well, Lindsay, it has been 6 years. I mean, weren't you guys like the class of 2014? So, I mean, I think that's still pretty remarkable that you're still in touch.
Yeah, it's been a long roller coaster, but yeah, I mean, we still talk every once in a while and, check in, see how things are going.
That's awesome. I love that. Now, we're coming up to the point of the broadcast called Something Sweet. We'd like to offer up a Wattpadder who has been showing off that talent or lifting up the community. They can be a writer or a reader. It's totally up to the panelists. Rita, why don't you go ahead and show off yours?
Well, today I would actually like to give a shout out to these two ladies because it was Camille's birthday yesterday and it was Lindsay's birthday about 2 weeks ago. So happy
Yeah.
late birthday.
Thank you.
Thanks.
What about you, Camille?
I'm not going to give a name, but I want to shout out to my reader who was attacked in my comment section. She handled herself really well. She, she didn't back down, and she certainly didn't deserve that kind of behavior on my book or on Wattpad in general. So I don't want to leave her name, but she knows who she is, and I'd like to shout her out for that.
That's awesome. Lindsay.
My shout out is actually going to one of those people that I had mentioned from that original group, and it's going to be Debbie or Brittany Charmentine on Wattpad. She lately, I've been reworking one of my stories to change it from a YA to a new adult, which is very difficult with the plotline that I had. And she's been kind of there to be a sounding board for, okay, so instead of a high schooler, I think I'm going to make her like into this news reporter type person who is able to get into all this stuff because of this. And so she's kind of been there to like listen and be like, yeah, I think that'll work.
That's awesome.
That's great. I love it. All right, and as we close, I'm just going to give our panelists a moment to give you a little piece of advice that could fit in a tweet. Cami, why don't you start?
My piece of advice is to read both in and out of your genre. Make sure you kind of push yourself sometimes. It's hard, but to push yourself sometimes to read out of your genre because you never really know what'll inspire you and what you'll learn from different genres and be able to take into your own work.
Like it. I like it. Lindsay.
So mine is going to be kind of similar, not necessarily the reading in or out, but in order to be a good writer, you need to be a good reader. So just keep reading.
And Rita.
You can only write a book one word, one sentence, one paragraph at a time. Even with just 200 words a day, in 1 year, you'll have a 73,000 word novel.
Wow.
That's
kind of crazy when you break it down like that. That is
Yep.
crazy. Like it. I like it. All right, we'll keep writing the good fight. Thanks for joining us tonight. We were really happy to have you, Reese. And Carl, as always, we love having you. We will see you next week. Same time, same channel. See you then.
Bye.